Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about how to set up your own gradebook in Google Sheets in a way that you can maintain one gradebook but have files that are shared with all students so they can see their grades all the time. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'll just make a couple of comments about why I did this. There's some things about the gradebook and the tartan that I really like. That it's connected with the tartan and students can always see their grades are some nice features. But there are some things that I got frustrated with or was unsure about. I had a hard time understanding always how it was calculating some of the grades it was, and I wasn't totally sure it was doing exactly what I wanted. And I potentially could have, tried to dig in more and find out. But I like having my own gradebook where I'm the one doing the calculations, so I know exactly what's happening. Also, I wanted, especially with some bigger classes, to be able to cut and paste columns of grade results into my gradebook, and the tartan didn't allow that kind of functionality. So having my own gradebook as a spreadsheet really allowed me to do some things that is making entering grades a lot faster and easier for me. So I'm going to walk through a little bit about how I set up my gradebook and what it looks like, and then how the other things we need to do to get this shared with students so they can always see their grades. I'm here in Google Drive, and I've created a folder for one of my classes coming up this fall, EDU 411. And within that, I've created a folder just for grades, just to organize things. You can organize how you want on Google Drive. Within that, I've got a gradebook file, and I've also got a template for the students file. So let's take a look at the gradebook file. I'll just show you a couple of things there. You can make this as complicated or as simple as you want. I've had a few things I like to do. I have multiple tabs here, and my grades tab is kind of where I see the overall grade here and each of my students. I have sub-scores according to how I've split things up in my syllabus. I've got a place to enter some project scores and also some homework scores here. And so here I can do things like enter a project score or enter a homework score for a student, and it'll automatically update. And right now, this overall is a weighted average between these first couple columns. So you can see he's got that assignment. If I go and say he came to class the first day and participated well, and I'll come back to this attendance in a second. Now he's got 100% on everything. So that's what the overall tab is doing. I have an attendance tab, and there I've entered the days that we're having class. And here I can put in a participation grade. I can say Adam, he's doing well, and then he missed the class one day, and maybe he didn't do so hot participating another day. So you can see what it's doing. It's calculating a number based on the grade I'm putting in, and then averaging that out, and that gets pulled back over here. I've also got a couple of tabs for the midterm and the final exams, and here I've got the rubrics for the exams included based on the learning objectives in the exam and all the points available per learning objective, so we can kind of see how this will get pulled in if Adam, let's say, does pretty well on things here. Over here, it'll give a total and a percent, and that'll get pulled over into his midterm column here. I do have to, along the way, update the weighted grade and the overall to when they do the midterm, then I add that to the overall weighted. So that's something I do. And then finally, I've got a final letter grades tab where it takes whatever Adam has and calculates what that letter grade is for him. Those are the kinds of things I like to do in my gradebook. The student is going to be able to see this header row with all the names of everything, and then their own row of information. So Adam will be able to see overall, he's got a 91, attendance, that grade, assignments, that. And also the student is going to be able to see the dates and their participation and attendance grades for each of the dates. So that's what's set up in this template. So I'm going to jump over to this other file that I have, my template for what the students will see, and I just called it grades and attendance with the name of the class there. And it looks like this. So I've got a row that'll include all those headers of everything, and then I've got a row that's going to include all the student grades on everything. And then down below, I've got attendance, and this will include all the dates. And this one here will include all the students' grades. So a couple of comments on setting this up. I've set it up and I've matched the formatting to my gradebook. So you can see I've got the colors here that match the colors of the different categories. I've got the section for projects and then all the attendance. When I'm going to pull this data in, it's not going to change the formatting. So I have to make sure this formatting matches what I have here if I want formatting. If I want the colors to match, I got to make sure that they match up ahead of time. Because pulling it in from this gradebook won't pull in formatting, it'll just pull in the text. You don't have to include that formatting. I could have all this color just empty, and the students will still see all the text, and they'll still see their scores. And so if you have any kind of, I found that if I made adjustments to my gradebook later and shifted columns around or things, that often makes things not align with the students' formatting, which can be problematic. If you feel like your gradebook is all set and you're not going to make any changes, it can work well to format things ahead of time as well. But in general, you want this template all set exactly how you want it before you start making copies of it for your students. So let's set up the other things we need besides formatting. We need to tell the template to pull in the data from my gradebook and put it into this row. The command that does that is import range. So I've already had this set up before. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Where I said equals import range. And then there's two things you need to give for the import range command, and both are in quotes. One is the name of the web address for my gradebook. Right now, this is a previous one, so I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to copy right out of the browser bar here the um, website for my gradebook. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paste that website in here. The other thing is I need to tell it the range of cells that I want it to draw in. And so in this row here, I want it to just grab that header row. So the first part here is the grades tab, and we tell it the tab. So over here, I've got several tabs. I want to do the grades tab, and I tell it to do that by typing grades exclamation point. And then I tell it the cells to bring in. So it's going to bring in cell B1 all the way over to ZZ1. So B1 is here. That'll tell it, it'll bring in name, and then all the way down here. And I just put ZZ because I've found that sometimes I like to keep adding more assignments later, and I just wanted to grab absolutely everything in that row. So ZZ1 is usually plenty far down to get all the assignments. I did have a semester where I only had like, you know, T1 or something like that. And then I added some extra rows and students were like, I can't see the latest assignments. So I do ZZ1 and just grab everything. Okay, so I've got my website web address updated here, and I've got my range of cells here. I'm going to hit enter, and it says loading, but then it gives me ref, and it says you need to connect these sheets. So we need to tell Google that it is okay, allowed for these two sheets to be connected. So I'm going to click allow access, and now it has pulled in all the things from my gradebook. Next, I need to do the same thing in these cells. So I need to get that same gradebook reference here, my web address, and I need to paste that in here. And then I need to tell it to pick another row. I don't want that first row for the headers. What I'm going to ultimately do is put in, for example, row 3 for Adam or row 4 for Brenda, etc. What I do by default is I just put row 2 in there so that the template just has this this row here with um, the points possible for each assignment. The reason I do that is I don't want to copy this, share it with Adam, and then make another copy, share it with Brenda, and now Brenda's looking at Adam's grades, maybe even just for a few minutes before I make the change. So I just kind of put the row 2 there, and we can see that this has brought in my things from row 2. If I go back to my gradebook and I add some information here, like I'll put some 5s in here, now we should see they show up here in the student template. So whatever changes I make to my gradebook, those changes are happening live to the student template as well. For the attendance, I need to do the same thing. I need to get my gradebook website and put that in my import range. And then now, instead of the grades sheet, I'm putting in the attendance. And what I've done real intentionally in my gradebook is I have made Adam row 3 in both my grades sheet, and Adam will be row 3 in my attendance sheet, so that these two can reference the same row. For Adam, it'll be 3. But here I'm starting at row D because in my attendance sheet, I'm just going to start in this column here. I'm not going to give him the total and his name. I'm just going to start on that column to get the date. So that's what I've got there on this one. So I'm good there. And it'll bring in all the dates. And then same thing here. And I could go back to my tab there, or I could just copy this, this guy here and put the exact same thing in. Whoops, I meant this one here. Put that same thing in here. And now it's going to put that twice. All I'm going to need to do when I make Adam's sheet is change this now to 3 here and here. So I'm going to make a copy of this template for each student. I'm going to have to change 2 little things. I'm going to have to change this to 3 to make it Adam's row. And then also in this row here, I'm going to have to change this to 3 to make it Adam's. So it's a little bit of jumping in there, changing a couple of numbers for each student, and then sharing it with that student. Once your template's all set and you feel like you're ready to share it with students, then what you do is you're going to make copies of this file and change the row to be the student's row. Change the name so it doesn't say template, but it says the student's name. And then you're going to share the file with the student. So let's walk through that. So I'm all set. I've got my gradebook all set. I've got my template all set. There's a few different ways to make copies of the template. You can go to the template file itself and say, make a copy. You can also go in Google Drive and right click on it and say, make a copy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's a third way to make copies, and this is especially helpful when you have a larger class. There is an add-on for Google Sheets called Doctopus, and it allows you to make multiple copies of a file and share it with students. That's a little bit more of a process, and I'm looking to make another video to walk through how to use Doctopus, so you can look for that. For a small class, it's pretty easy to do this by hand. So I've got a copy here. I'm going to right click and rename this so that I know this is for my student Adam Adamson. Whoops, shouldn't hit cancel there. Okay. And I like to name them by last name so that they're in order in my Google Drive here. All right, what am I going to do with this file? I have to make a couple of changes to make sure it's Adam Adamson's. First, Google Drive does not know this new file I just made it can be connected to the other sheet. So I just click on this and I say allow access, and all 4 of those cells are now allowed to access my other sheet. Next, I click on this row here, which is referencing row 2 in my gradebook, and I wanted to reference row 3, Adam Adamson. So I'm going to change those 2 cell references to 3, and now Adam's name and scores are pulled in here. So once again, I don't have to change the website it's referencing or the sheet that it's referencing, just the row B3 and ZZ3 instead of B2 and ZZ2. So I make that change, and now it's got Adam's information in there. And then this is the other cell where I'm going to change this from row 2 to row 3 for Adam. And you can see it's pulling in his letter grades there for each day. And now this is ready to share with Adam, and he can see everything. So I hit share, and I would add Adam Adamson. It's probably not going to find him because I just made him up, so he's not for real. One thing you want to do is you don't want to make him an editor. I accidentally shared students as editors in the past, and that means they can go in and they can change things. And they're like, "Hey, I didn't like a C on that day. I'll change it to an A," and then it just kind of breaks it, and they can't see their current grades anymore. So instead, just allow them to view and comment if they want, but just allow them to view so they can see this. So now once that's shared with Adam, you can have it send a notice to him automatically when you share it with him so that he can see that he's got his gradebook shared with him. And then also it just probably is worth reminding students in general, hey, if you want to see your grades, they're live anytime. Go to Google Drive and search for grades and attendance and you'll find it. So I just tell them use your search bar and search for grades and attendance. And usually that comes up because usually there's not a lot of other um, files called grades and attendance shared in their Google Drive. So Adam's all set to go. Then I make another copy of this for my next student. And instead of row 3, I'd be changing it to row 4, and it would be referencing Brenda's row. And we can just hop in there and just go through this process one more time. Once you get this down, it's pretty easy to do. It just takes a few minutes, depending on the size of the class, to run these copies and get them all set. But you share that sheet with them and allow access. You change this to your next one, row 4 here, and row 4 down here. And now Brenda's all set to go. And you just go ahead and hit share and share it with Brenda. So that's how I run my gradebooks for my classes. And I feel like it gives me great control over how I want my gradebook set and allows me to do some nice things like copying and pasting grades in there from other places. Students can see their grades live at any time and also their attendance. And I feel like those are some really nice features. I hope that you consider making use of this. And if there's anything I can do to help out, please let me know. I'm happy to work with you if you're trying to set this up for yourself. I'd be happy to work with you on that.